In this episode of In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, we visit with Jimmy Burrow. Jimmy Burrow, really good football player. Played high school, college, professionally, coached for a lot of years at the collegiate level, defensive coordinator for a bunch of years, knows his football. As the old saying goes, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. His son, Joe Burrow, is a football savant. He knows and understands the game of football. Very, very interesting to hear about Joe Burrow through the life experiences with his dad, Jimmy Burrow. You're going to like this a lot. Welcome to In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics in our beautiful studios as always. And what a joy, what a pleasure to be joined now by Jimmy Burrow, father of Joe Burrow. How's that? Instead of all your accomplishments, you're an accomplished player, coach, everything, but big time father of Joe Burrow. That's that says it all right there, Jimmy. You got to be a proud father.
Well, thanks for having me on, and that's the way I'm introduced most times now, and I'm good with it. Proud to be introduced that way for sure.
I'll tell you, boy, that's your son is he's a special football player, special person. All of your coaching background, the defensive brilliance that you have in that mind of yours. How would you stop your son? I mean, honestly, what kind of a game plan would you put together to stop Joe? Because I'll tell you what, old Wink Martindale, he tried a lot of different things and nothing was working, and Joe just carved him up.
I don't think blitzing is the answer, although, I think you have to mix in some maybe those type blitzes, but just mixing up coverages. I mean, that's what some of these other teams have done. Also just trying to eliminate the big play, which is certainly easier said than done, but they're playing quarters on one side and they seem to be rolling up on Jamar on the other side, those type things. And, we usually have an answer for it at some point. And that's, our coaches, those offensive people do a good job, and Zach does a good job calling the plays. And Joe's eventually able to recognize what they're doing. And that's ends up second half. Maybe that's why sometimes we seem to play better the second half, but they're usually all on the same page and can figure it out at some point.
The thing too that Joe does so well is when he extends and creates. When he gets out of pocket and he's looking down the field and he's hoping his teammates or football players can find open spots in the football field. And when he goes into his improv routine, a lot of times it's better than the play that was called. And how much pressure does that put on a defense and defensive coaches when you have a quarterback that can do that kind of thing, off script as such?
Yeah, that's extremely difficult. And as a defensive coordinator, that's your worst nightmare to get pressure and then the quarterback escape the pocket, or you have great coverage and the quarterback escapes the pocket. And then there's the threat of him scrambling for a first down maybe, or finding the open receiver. And Joe's always been able to do that. He's a good athlete, so that helps. And I think he he can figure out sometimes the rush lanes that are available to him, and he's able to escape. But I don't like him having to duck under people and take those hits and bounce out of the pocket. But he's pretty good at knowing the pressure and knowing when to escape and when to stand in there.
You mentioned what a good athlete he is. I think people, I'm not saying that he's, I don't know, pick somebody in today's football era, it would be Lamar Jackson. Back in other eras, it would be, pick that mobile freak, genetic freak athlete. But Joe is at a high level in terms of making people miss in short spaces and all those sort of things. I mean, does that come from everything that he's done athletically and like basketball and his ability to change direction and all of that sort of thing? Is it just over his athletic experiences?
I think multiple sport athletes it certainly gives especially quarterbacks advantages to be able to use their athletic ability. And Joe loved basketball. We played a lot of travel basketball around the state and other states. He played baseball. Some people think baseball was actually his best sport, and
wow.
he may have liked that better than the other two. But at some point, he chose basketball and football. But and I've heard Joe say that some of those times that you're competing and trying to find a way to win and trying to find the best way to score on basketball and defend people, that certainly helps him in the long run, I think.
What was it like for you and your wife to sit in the stands and watch? And you as a former coach, I mean, just recently retired from the coaching profession after a brilliant coaching career, and watch your son execute at such a high level, set Cincinnati Bengals franchise record and with 525 passing yards. And if Tyler Boyd's touchdown catch isn't overturned, he's the record holder. I mean, he's fourth highest right now. But if that play stands, he's the all-time single game record holder in the National Football League. What was that like watching your son perform like that? Well,
he's thrown a lot of touchdowns and a lot of yards at other levels, but nothing like Sunday. And it was fun to watch. The main thing was we were winning the game, and I think you've heard again Joe's comments that records don't mean anything. And really, to me, as a coach, you just want to win. But as a dad, you're always proud of records. But then you look at I was just watching the highlights of his throws today, and those receivers, they made it look easy because there were catches that they were making that. Joe. They said Joe made a great throw, but in reality, it was those three guys or CJ making great catches and yards after the catch. So it was certainly totally team effort on Sunday, and that's fun to watch.
The thing that impresses me about Joe is I think he could install an offense or a defense as well as any coach. I mean, he is a football savant. He understands every little nuance of what his offense is trying to accomplish and what defenses are trying to do to not let his offense accomplish it. When did he show signs of being such a beautiful football mind? I mean, when you had conversations with Joe, what age was it like, boy, this young man really gets it?
I know that Coach Sam Smathers gave him a few options in starting in third grade with a couple different plays, and that was fun to watch. And as he got into seventh and eighth grade, and that was when really we talked a little more about coverages and started watching some film here and there. But I think just him being around, watching so many games, and with Robin and his mom and Joe watching the games. Of course, they were concentrating a lot on the defense because that was what I was coaching. So I think he got a jump start just from watching so many games. We watched games on TV, and we didn't have 24/7 conversations about football or coverages, but he was around it enough to pick up a lot of things, that knowledge that I'm sure has helped him over his career so far.
I remember when I was playing, we had 16 millimeter projectors, in the film, the regular film, celluloid film. And I got my own projector and I would bring film home, and I just put it up on the stucco wall of my living room as a screen, and I'd watch. And my 5-year-old son would come in and, oh, what's Dad doing? And I was surprised, after a period of time, he started asking me really good questions, and I'm thinking, he's picking more up than I thought. When you were working the hours that you work and doing some of it at home, obviously, was Joe like that? Was Joe always like, hey, Dad, can I take a look at some tape, some film with you? And can we talk about it a little bit? Would he try to tap into your vast knowledge?
Not really. I mean, it was probably more so me encouraging him to, hey, you want to watch your game that I wasn't able to go to, or and he was always receptive to that. And then for sure, some of the bigger games in high school that we would take a look at the opponent, and he was always willing to do that. But I never wanted to make it so he regretted Dad coming home and saying, hey, we got to watch this film. So it was pretty much a give and take. Just if he felt good about having the time to do it, he was usually pretty receptive to it. And he watched a lot of film on his own. Certainly, that was something I think that came from watching his dad as a coach, watch a lot of film, and he certainly did that. Not only at the facility but when he came home, he would watch it too. And he's really been fortunate too, because at LSU, started at Athens High School and then LSU and now with the Bengals. The one good thing is all those receivers and running backs, tight ends, really, really smart. So not only does Joe always have to recognize the coverage, but all of these different levels from really high school on, he had to have teammates that were able to recognize that too. And he's been fortunate in that regards.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, if the quarterback, it's like the math teacher that knows everything, but he can't teach it to the students.
That's right.
Mean, if Joe knows everything and the others don't, what good does it do you? That's an excellent point. Was there a point though when you were watching games with Joe, just the way he absorbed it, or maybe questions he asked, or things? Did you, because you coached a lot of players over your time frame, a lot of great ones, and a lot of very, very high football IQ players. Did you look at Joe and say, I might have something a little bit unique here? Was there ever a time where you thought that?
Well, it was probably more so when I was able to sit in the stands during his high school career, and I'd see coverages developing from pre-snap, and I knew that Joe, when he changed the play, when he was signaling out to the receivers, just like he does now,
right.
I could tell that, hey, he recognizes that this receiver is one-on-one, or they're in a 3-deep zone and the verticals are open, or 2 deep. They got to get guy in the seam. I mean, you could tell that just by his mannerisms and his communication with all the other offensive personnel. And then, you'd see it play out just like you thought it might, from seeing the coverage yourself as a former coach, or as a coach during that time, I guess.
Sure. The thing that I always like to see is when Joe will start a cadence and he'll kill it, and then and what he's doing is gathering intel. He wants to see, okay, well, that pre-snap read, let me take it as far as I can and see if they're going to bail, see if what they're going to do. I mean, he gathers intel, so well. He's so aware of everything. And when I see him, kill it and hit his helmet, and sometimes he might be changing the play. Sometimes it's just, a phony deal where all he wants to do is see a little bit more for a little bit longer period of time. He is in full control of the football game. I mean, you love to see your quarterback have total control. Joe Burrow is in full control of every football game that he's in. It's unbelievable.
He would be the first to tell you that most of that comes with preparation during the week. So once again, the coaches, they give him reminders. They show him, point out things on the film, and back to whether it was high school or at LSU or now with the Bengals, just had great offensive minds and coaches that Joe gets it, but they prepare him during the course of the week to he knows what he's looking for, and when he sees it, he knows what it is. And as I said, that comes from hard work during the week with the coaches and the rest of his teammates.
Obviously, you showed Joe an unbelievable work ethic. I know how hard college football coaches work, recruiting, preparation for games. I mean, it's a nonstop. It's a 365 day a year, 24-hour day job, and Joe grew up in that atmosphere. So, I mean, you ever think that, boy, I feel like I did set a good example for my son in terms of if this is where you're going to go into the game of football, this is how you have to get yourself ready for it. And if you didn't, congratulations, because man, your son certainly did pick up on you, boy. He really did. He's got an unbelievable work ethic for the game of football.
Well, coaching is hard work, and his mom was an educator, a teacher, and now she's a principal. And I'm amazed at how hard work that is too. Right. So he did grow up, seeing us put in the hours and putting in the time to do our job, and I think any time that young man or a young woman has parents that are showing that and leading by example, then it's going to rub off on you, and hopefully that's what it did to Joe.
So, just off the script a little bit, I guess, or a subject change. What would Joe do if he wasn't a football player? What do you think Joe would have gotten into? What would Joe's interest academically and hobbies and all that sort of thing? What do you think he might have done, or what will he do when he's done playing football?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, he was in business. He's always liked the stock market and securities and things like that. He did an internship for a couple of days at I think it's is it Goldsack Goldsackman or whatever in Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
My wife's correct. I mean, Goldman's, that's how much I know about it, but Goldman Sachs in New York, he did that. So that's always interested him, and maybe something like that. I think maybe toward the end of the LSU, I mean, he's just had, again, all these great coaches that he's worked for. I think he respects them so much that did interest him by the time he was done at LSU. Is maybe I would be a coach one of these days if the NFL doesn't work out. But again, he's seen the long hours. I'm not sure he's ever going to be too fired up about spending those long hours. But I just know that when Joe's done, he's going to want a challenge, and that would certainly present a good one for him.
As you know, coaching for as long as you did, the biggest attribute or one of the greatest characteristics you can have is consistency. And man, consistency of performance, consistency of personality, all that goes. And your son, that dude is the same guy every day, whether he's thrown for 525 yards or 135 yards. If his team wins, he's good. And his look is the same. His demeanor is the same. The way he answers the questions is the same. It's unbelievable to watch him and observe him. He is the model of consistency. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really share a lot of really his personality too much out there, even around us. I mean, we try to ask questions about teammates and coaches and football, and it's tough getting things out of him, but once you kind of get him on a roll, it's fun. But I think, again, he just has been in so many different levels of competition in all those sports that he's realized that you can't be too high and you can't be too low. Yep. And there's going to be a lot of those, but you can't outwardly show those things to really anybody, the public, the media, to opponents, and I think that has a lot to do with the personality that he is, and he's always looking for if he has a great throw or a great pass for a touchdown, then he's already looking for the next series. So another example, if you're thinking about it too much, showing too much emotion, then you kind of lose track of what's at hand the next series. And same thing, if he throws an interception, I mean, he knows in the NFL that they're great players on defense. He always tells me that those guys on defense get paid a lot of money too. So they're making plays, and you just got to put it behind you and not show how disappointed you are or how frustrated you are. And there are times I'm sure he is, but he's learned to really control those emotions and be pretty even keeled out there.
So your son is got laser focus. He's not just focused. I mean, laser focus during the football season. Do you give him his space, knowing how he is so focused and how he prepares? What's it like in terms of enjoying these moments with your son, but not feeling like you're crowding his space too much or whatever? What's that balancing act like for a guy who coached for as long as you and a wife who is? There's nothing tougher than being a coach's wife, as we know, Coach. Robin, how do you handle that stuff?
She's been an awesome coach's wife, and she knows the trials and tribulations of that, and she's an unbelievable player's mom. But we've learned over the years, he doesn't want a lot of questions. He's coming off a loss. We don't spend a lot of time with him after a loss. We're there for him if he needs us, but he definitely needs his space for several days. So I like to say we may have a 48-hour rule after a loss. We aren't going to try to reach out to him for about 2 days, but he's gotten better really about that. I mean, he's not a good loser, that's for sure. I mean, he respects his opponents, and he knows that sometimes he is going to lose, but he's frustrated and disappointed in his losses, and doesn't like to lose. So I think that's actually a good thing. But we know when to give him his space, that's for sure.
Well, you and Robin, I mean, you're both educators. Robin's educator, obviously, and coaching is basically teaching. I mean, that's what Paul Brown, I remember my first NFL coach, but I mean, coaches all the way up to that highest level, they were all, if they were teacher / coach, in high school. All my coaches I had as teachers. It's in some course in high school and collegiately, same kind of thing in some instances, but I mean, it is coaching profession. That's teaching, isn't it, Jimmy?
Oh yeah, it is. Coaches, just like teachers. I mean, you have to teach, you have to counsel, you have to communicate. I watch my wife when she taught first grade, and I'm going, how can you possibly teach a 7-year-old how to read? And it takes a lot of patience to teach and coach, and I think it takes patience to be a good football player too, because of it doesn't just happen overnight. There's a very few guys in the whole world in any sport that it comes easy, and really when it gets down to it, probably none. So teaching and coaching, there's a lot of similarities for sure.
There are, and I remember my first grade teacher, and I want to give a shout out to Robin on this. I mean, my first grade teacher, that's your first experience with what school is going to be like, and she couldn't have been better. So I ended up loving school, and I think part of it is because of that experience with her. And then your first football coach, if it's a frustrated ex-player that beats you up and all that, I mean, that can be a bad experience. I couldn't have had a better experience, So I mean, You can be fortunate. Some kids aren't as fortunate. I was extremely fortunate in just early stages of of education and football and all that. Couldn't have been better. And I admire you guys for choosing the professions you chose and having such a positive influence on young people at a critical time in their lives.
Well, you want to make it fun. Again, both teachers and students learning, and coaches and football players learning. It's hard work, and there's a thing, kind of old school, tough love, where you gotta teach them discipline and things like that. But it's got to be fun, and you got to make it so that they want to receive information, and they want to get better at again, whether it's reading, whether it's playing corner or playing quarterback. If the more that they want to learn, and the more you can make it fun, then you got a pretty good thing going.
So now Joe goes against Patrick Mahomes. I mean, when he's going against a guy who is, one of the faces of the National Football League, like when he went against Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that was a great game. The Packers win the game in overtime. And these quarterbacks don't play one snap against each other. I mean, obviously, their teammates, the opposing defenses, are the ones that have to control the destiny of that football game. But does Joe get amped up a little bit from a competitive nature when he's going against, one of the all-time best?
I'm sure he does, but as we've talked about it, you're not going to see it. He's not going to speak about it probably and show it emotionally. Right. But he knows that quarterbacks in the NFL are graded on how they play against other great quarterbacks, and can you get them in the playoffs, and can you win a playoff game, and can you win a Super Bowl, and Patrick Mahomes has done all those. So he certainly looks up to him. I don't know that he's ever met him, but he'll look forward to the challenge for sure.
Don Wink Martindale made a tactical error when he said, well, Chase and Burrow, I mean, when you compare them to Rodgers and his number one guy, I mean, that receiver is one of the two best in the NFL, and he ain't number two, and Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Hall of Famer. Joe, I don't know about Joe at this. That was a big mistake, because your son, one thing like Michael Jordan, all the great competitors, they look for just that much to motivate him even more. And Joe just took that comment, and I thought he handled it so great post game when he said, I wasn't really offended, but it was unnecessary. It just wasn't a necessary comment. And then the question was, did it motivate you to throw for 525 yards? Maybe, with a good smile on his face. He handled it so well. But I mean, I do think that Wink, he put Joe over the top in terms of that competitive spirit for that football game, I think.
Well, he keeps things like that again in his memory bank. I mean, he knows right. Who was running the Elite 11s when he didn't get to the finals. He knows the people that didn't recruit him. He knows the people that weren't interested in him when he transferred. I mean, he has all that in his memory bank, and he uses as motivation and really for the rest of his life, apparently, because he's still. If I ask him, hey, who was the guy that Elite 11 that was making the picks to move people on? I mean, he can tell you right now that it was so and so, and that he didn't get moved forward. And there is something too, Dave. I'm going to read you this right here about my friend just sent it. So in January 1 of 2019. Joe threw for 4 TDs, 394 yards. December 28th, 2019, 29 of 39, 493. And then the big game yesterday. So the comment was just Joe gets going after Christmas, So hopefully that's gonna continue. But he's had good days after Christmas ever since LSU.
Here's a number that came out, information that came out. Field Yates put this out on Twitter. Joe Burrow has thrown for 4,165 yards at this stage of the season. Joe Mixon has rushed for 1,159. Jamar Chase, 1,163 yards receiving. T. Higgins, 1,029. The Bengals are the first team in NFL history to have a 4,000-yard passer, 1,000-yard rusher, and 2 1,000-yard receivers, all at age 25 or younger in the same season. These guys are going to marinate and put some serious numbers together now.
Well, the future looks great. I think Tyler Boyd, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's only 26.
Yeah.
So, he's right up there with best receivers in the league also. And
true.
And, we're fortunate that group's together, and hopefully they can be together for many, many years. And, there's a lot of good players on both sides of the ball. And I think the one thing maybe that's probably doesn't get talked about enough is just the character of the guys in that locker room. And I do hear Joe talk about that there's great people in there, and they're smart people, and you get smart football players that have great character, and you're certainly on the right track to be a contender for many years down in the future.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I do agree with you though, Jimmy, about once you get to a certain level of athletics, it's proving the doubters wrong. That is huge motivation. It's like, I can remember losing the Super Bowl loss that I experienced. I can remember every single play in that game. And why did I not do this instead of that or whatever? And if so-and-so had done this, or if I had done that, man, it would have been wins. You don't remember them like that.
No.
Losses, man, they just – so I in the same way, I mean, I remember, being recruited, and some coaches are, oh, yeah, this, and other coaches, I'm not – I wanted to prove those guys wrong. That's always the big motivator. Why is that, do you think? Why is that way with athletes? Is it just competitive natures or what?
Yeah, I'm sure that's a big part of it, just competitiveness of your personality. But I think really in any business, and maybe not just in sports, if somebody questions your ability or your work ethic or anything like that, you want to prove them wrong. And football, you have an opportunity to be so visible in your play out there, and that you are proving people wrong. But I think it's part human nature, and maybe again just part of somebody's drive and in their personality to really hang on to things like that.
So back to the academics for a second. Joe, obviously, I'd be stunned if not the case. Really, really good student.
Yeah, he was a good student. He graduated from Ohio State in 3 years, and then he got his master's at LSU in 2. And
great.
And those were important to Joe and to Robbie and I, for sure, that he would get his degree and get his master's. I mean, when he went to LSU, he was able to do that online, and that was a great opportunity for him to still be able to put in the time that he wanted to do to get those guys and get him to where he needed to be to compete for that national championship. And but he had to put forth the effort and study and get that done. And he's always been conscious of that. It's not something that we ever really had to push him to, hey, you need to make sure you get your master's, or in high school, you got to make sure you get this paper written. It was just, he was always pretty disciplined to make sure he got things done when he had to.
The other thing about him, and now after the game that he had, it becomes back burner, but you look at the recovery and the rehabilitation from that torn ACL and MCL, or whatever the extent of the damage was, to have that knee reconstructed and rehabilitate from that. And now nobody's even thinking about the pinky anymore. It's the pinky became, the pinky report was huge on a daily basis for a while. And then, but for him to overcome and block out those kind of things, when he did that pop-up slide at the end of one of the scrambles, when he had 3 scrambles for first downs against Denver, when it was tough to get first downs against Denver, when he had that pop-up slide, I thought, man, he's back. He's not even thinking about that knee anymore. Joe is back. He's so mentally tough, isn't he?
He is. I didn't like the slide. That was something we talked about, the way he did
Really?
it. There's a baseball way to slide, and the football way to slide is just like the baseball way to slide. So we did have a little conversation about that. But I mean, it all started in the day he got hurt, and the trainers and the people at Cincinnati had told him right away. Now it's all about getting it fixed, getting it rehabbed, and getting ready for next year. And then when we went to California, and Dr. Elatrosh did the surgery, and then Aaron Reynolds was the physical therapist that did just an awesome job getting Joe started on the right track back to recovery. And then when we got back, and Joe got back into Cincinnati and their training staff with Nick Cosgrove and Paul, they just did a tremendous job. And again, he wanted to get better every day, and he wanted to put in the work. And then Dak Notestein, his personal strength coach in the off season, had played for me at Ohio University. I recruited him as a walk-on. He became a All-MAC defensive end from Bell Fountain, and
Wow.
he had a lot to do with that. But again, just a team effort, and a lot of different people should get credit, and they do, from our family and from Joe, that we know who helped him get to where he is today.
Well, Jimmy, I'll tell you, it's been a heck of a season. The Bengals are in prime position. A couple of games to go. In first place in the division, control their own destiny as a player and coach. That's all you want to be able to do, is control your own destiny at this stage of the season, and they certainly do. Boy, it's been a joy to watch. It's been a joy to watch your son lead this football team, and this football team is entertaining now. I mean, there's no question that you're going to get your money's worth when you watch this Cincinnati Bengal 2021 football team.
Well, the Denver game, really, if you look at it, was the first playoff game.
Yep.
Because we'd lost a couple of tough ones. This last game was the second playoff game, and from here on out, they're playoff games. And I'm sure the staff understands that, and you can see they do from the last two games, and the players. And but it's always a great challenge to finish strong and to finish the season out. Nobody's health and body feels as good as it did at the start of the year, but that's the NFL, and that's everybody. So Joe's excited. We're excited as a family that we're that those guys are where they are, and we're just looking forward to some more victories here in the next few weeks.
Well, I know it's important going through a playoff run. I know it's important, how important it is to compartmentalize and like you say, win or lose, move on. And I have full confidence that your son has already compartmentalized that outstanding 525-yard effort, and he's in the record books. There's no doubt about that. But he's on to Kansas City, isn't he?
Yeah, he got in, I'm sure, Monday morning, and they already had some film ready for him to watch, and that's the part of the game he loves, and I think that helps him in his preparation every week also, because he loves to prepare for that next game.
Well, there's no question that the Burrow family is the first family of football in the state of Ohio, in my estimation. They should do in one of those, a football life that they do on the Burrow family, a football life on the Burrow family. That would be
maybe one of these days.
That would be must-see TV. There's no doubt about it. And I hope you guys had the merriest Christmas you ever had, and hopefully the new year in 2022 brings you everything that you're hoping it does for you and your family and your son. And you're a good man, Jimmy Burrow, and appreciate your time, sir.
Thanks, Dave. Have a happy holiday season here, continued through the New Year's. Have a happy New Year's, and let's get some victories, and go Bengals.
I hear you, sir. Go Bengals. And Robin, thank you for allowing us to have Jimmy for a while.
Dave saying thanks, Robin. She said "Who Day." You couldn't hear her.
There you go. Good day for sure.
All right. Talk to you
Thank
later.
At First Star Logistics, we're a very strict company that really puts the pressure on our employees. Breaks? What are those?
That's what I'm talking about, Icky. Get the body right, then the mind's right. You know,
Gotta get that body right. That's right. Yes, sir.
Become a star with a chance to earn the highest commission percentages in the industry as a freight broker agent. Check out firststarlogistics.com.